Have you ever wondered if living alone in your golden years could actually be the key to a more fulfilling, peaceful life? Many seniors are embracing this choice, but not everyone is convinced. Some argue that living alone can lead to isolation, loneliness, and missed family connections. But what if living alone, far from being a burden, actually brings a wealth of benefits that can improve your well-being in ways you never imagined? In today's video, we'll explore a topic that's gaining more attention among older adults: the 5 powerful benefits of seniors living alone. As we age, the choices we make about how we live have a profound impact on our happiness and quality of life. For many, living alone offers the freedom to rediscover passions, improve mental health, and live life on their own terms. But is it truly the best option? In this video, we'll uncover 5 remarkable advantages to living alone, from regaining personal freedom to experiencing a significant boost in both mental and physical health. Could this decision be the path to a more vibrant and meaningful life in your later years? Let's dive in and see how this lifestyle choice can reshape the way we approach aging, because living alone might just be the best-kept secret to thriving in the years ahead. Benefit 1: freedom and independence. Living alone isn't just about having an empty house. It's about reclaiming yourself, your time, your space, your choices. As we age, one of the most precious gifts we can give ourselves is the ability to live life on our own terms. For many seniors, the choice to live alone brings a sense of freedom and independence that is not only empowering but essential for maintaining a fulfilling life. Imagine waking up in the morning not to the sound of someone else's alarm clock, but to the peaceful hum of your own thoughts. There's no rush, no pressure. The entire day is yours to shape as you please. You decide whether to take a morning walk, spend the afternoon tending to your garden, or simply sit with a cup of tea and enjoy the silence. This is freedom. Freedom to choose what brings you joy, what nourishes your spirit, and what fills your heart. A friend of mine, Edith, who's in her early 70s, shared with me how liberating it felt to finally live on her own after years of raising children and sharing her space with family. "I never realized how much I had sacrificed for others' schedules," she told me. "Now I get to decide when I want to read, when I want to take a nap, when I want to be social, and when I don't. It's like I've been given back a part of myself I didn't even know I lost." This shift from shared living to living alone gives you control over the little things that bring peace to your soul. You can fill your day with activities that resonate with you on a personal level, things you might have set aside for years. The quiet mornings spent in contemplation, the evenings spent reflecting on life's blessings, these moments help cultivate a deep sense of contentment. In Buddhist philosophy, there is an idea that when we free ourselves from external attachments, we open the door to true peace. By living alone, we no longer have to adjust our desires or routines to fit someone else's expectations. Instead, we align our actions with our inner rhythm, our heart's natural beat. This self-alignment brings a sense of calm that cannot be found in the chaos of shared living spaces. But freedom does not just come from the absence of people, it's the presence of oneself. When you live alone, you are given the chance to reconnect with your authentic self, without distractions, without external demands. You can rediscover your passions, your values, and your purpose. And in this newfound space, you are no longer just a role you play in a family. You are a person, whole, rediscovering the beauty of your own presence. Edith, for instance, began painting again after decades of setting it aside. She found that her art was more vibrant and full of life because it was entirely hers, a creation that came from her heart without outside influence. For her, the freedom of living alone allowed her to open up new doors to self-expression and personal fulfillment. She could now dedicate time to painting without feeling guilty about neglecting other responsibilities or obligations. In this way, living alone offers a freedom that is both external and internal. Externally, it's the ability to choose what you do with your day, your time, your space. Internally, it's the peace that comes from being free to simply be, unburdened by the expectations of others. And that freedom, my friends, is a powerful tool for living a life that is not only peaceful, but deeply enriching. Freedom doesn't always mean doing whatever we want at all times. In fact, true freedom, as Buddhism teaches, is the freedom that comes from inner peace and mindful living. It's the liberation that comes when we choose what truly nourishes us, not because we're running from something, but because we're running toward our own truth. And when you live alone, you have the space to create a life that is filled with exactly that. This is the gift of freedom, an opportunity to live in alignment with your truest self, to do things on your own terms, and to fill your days with purpose and meaning. And in doing so, you may discover a joy you hadn't realized you were missing. Benefit 2. Improved mental health. Living alone provides a unique opportunity to cultivate a sense of mental peace that can be difficult to achieve in a busy household. It's often in the quiet, in the space where there are no demands or distractions, that we find clarity. And for seniors especially, this can make all the difference in maintaining mental well-being. In Buddhist teachings, there is an emphasis on the importance of mindfulness and the practice of being present in the moment. When we are surrounded by constant noise, chatter, and the pressures of daily life, it can be challenging to hear our own thoughts. Living alone offers the rare gift of peace, a kind of silence where we can truly listen to ourselves, our feelings, and our needs. This quiet space is where healing happens, where we can confront our emotions and where we can reconnect with our inner strength. I remember speaking to Robert, a man in his mid-70s who had spent most of his life in a bustling household filled with children, pets, and endless responsibilities. When his last child left home, he decided to try living alone for the first time. At first it felt strange, he confessed. But then I realized the stillness wasn't something to be afraid of. It was a space for my mind to relax, to slow down. I could finally breathe deeply and not feel like I was constantly running. That deep breath, that sense of being able to pause and just be, is something that many seniors begin to cherish when they live alone. It's a form of self-care that is often overlooked. Without the constant stress of managing a household or meeting the needs of others, you have the freedom to focus on your own mental well-being. The moments of peace you find in solitude become an essential part of maintaining emotional balance. Research also supports the idea that living alone can lead to improved mental health. A study from the Pew Research Center found that seniors who live alone are more likely to report feeling a greater sense of control over their lives, and in turn, experience less anxiety and stress. This is partly because living alone offers seniors the ability to set their own schedules, reduce unnecessary stresses, and embrace a lifestyle that's aligned with their personal needs. But it's not just about the absence of stress. Living alone can also create the mental space needed to cultivate happiness. Buddhist teachings remind us that true peace doesn't come from external circumstances, it comes from within. And when we live alone, free from the noise and distractions of shared living, we are more able to connect with that peace inside us. For example, Betty, a retired teacher in her late 60s, shared how she had struggled with anxiety and depression after her husband passed away. The constant presence of family and friends, while well-meaning, felt like a barrier to her own emotional healing. Once I started living alone, she told me, I finally felt like I could breathe again. I was able to spend time meditating, reflecting on my life, and focusing on my own mental health. It was the first time in years that I didn't feel like I was being pulled in 1,000 directions. In living alone, Betty was able to create a space for herself where healing could happen naturally. The time alone allowed her to regain control of her emotions, manage her thoughts, and restore her mental well-being. Mental health, especially in later years, is incredibly important. Living alone may not be for everyone, but for those who are seeking mental clarity and emotional peace, it can be an invaluable gift. By embracing solitude, we give ourselves permission to be still, to reflect, and to nurture our minds. This in turn leads to greater resilience, deeper contentment, and a sense of calm that is difficult to find when life is constantly busy or full of expectations. In Buddhist philosophy, the practice of meditation is a cornerstone of mental clarity. When we live alone, we can create a kind of living meditation where every quiet moment becomes an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves. It's not just about doing nothing. It's about being present with ourselves, finding peace within, and embracing the beauty of our own company. By choosing to live alone, you open the door to a new level of mental well-being. In the stillness, you find peace. In the quiet, you find yourself. And in that space, you can heal, grow, and thrive. Benefit 3. Stronger family bonds. While many might assume that living alone means being isolated, the opposite is often true. For seniors, living alone can actually strengthen family bonds in ways that a shared household might not. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that more time spent under the same roof equates to closer relationships, but sometimes it's the space and the time apart that allow those relationships to flourish. In Buddhist philosophy, there is an emphasis on detachment, not as a means of abandonment, but as a way to cultivate deeper connections. Detachment here doesn't mean withdrawing from others. It means giving space to relationships, allowing them to breathe and grow naturally, free from the pressures of daily living. When seniors choose to live alone, they create a space that fosters more meaningful interactions with their loved ones, rather than being overwhelmed by the demands of a shared household. Think about it. When there's no tension or clutter of everyday life to distract you, every interaction with family members becomes more intentional, more present. Visits with children, grandchildren, or friends become moments of connection rather than fleeting exchanges between busy schedules. There's time for real conversations, for deeper understanding, and for emotional closeness that can sometimes get lost in the hustle and bustle of a home full of people. I recall a beautiful story from Clara, a woman in her 80s who had been living with her daughter for several years. While she loved her daughter dearly, Clara often felt that the constant presence of family members left little room for the personal connection she craved. She decided to try living alone, and the results were transformative. "At first I missed the noise," she said, "but soon I realized that having space between us allowed our visits to be much more meaningful. We could talk without interruptions, laugh without distraction, and just be together in a way that felt genuine." Clara's story highlights how living alone can create the conditions for more authentic relationships. Without the constant interaction of daily life, there is an opportunity for both the senior and their family members to reflect on their connections. Visits and phone calls become something to look forward to, not just another part of the routine. The emotional energy once spent on daily logistics is now directed toward building stronger, deeper bonds. And this isn't just about physical space. It's about the emotional space that comes from living alone. In the silence, there's time for reflection, time to think about what really matters in relationships. It's about quality over quantity. When you live alone, you are free from the tensions that often arise when multiple generations live under one roof. There's no more rushing through meals, no more interruptions while you're speaking, and no more unspoken resentment simmering beneath the surface. Living alone also allows seniors the time to reach out to their family in new ways. Without the distractions of shared living, you can send handwritten letters, make thoughtful phone calls, or plan visits that feel more deliberate and meaningful. You can share stories, memories, and advice in a way that fosters a deeper emotional connection. There is something powerful about giving your family the gift of your time, especially when you're not constantly worrying about household chores or the demands of day-to-day life. And then there's the gift of emotional health that comes from stronger family relationships. When seniors live alone, they are often in a better position to manage their emotional needs. Without the constant tension of a busy household, the time spent with loved ones can be more focused on joy, love, and laughter. Seniors can offer their wisdom and guidance to younger generations without the stress of household responsibilities, which can lead to more fulfilling and rewarding exchanges. I recently spoke with James, a grandfather who had been living alone for 2 years after his wife passed away. He shared how much he looked forward to his weekends with his children and grandchildren. "When I lived with my son, it was hard to have those quiet moments with them, but now when they visit, it's just pure joy. There's no stress or pressure to get things done. We can just be together." Living alone gives James, and so many like him, the gift of creating quality memories with his family, and these memories, unlike the stress of daily chores or busy schedules, will last far beyond the moment. The time spent together is deepened because it is no longer rushed or taken for granted. Instead, it is treasured for what it is, a true meaningful connection. Living alone doesn't isolate you from your family. Rather, it creates a healthy space for relationships to grow. It allows family members to connect with you, not just as a parent or grandparent, but as a person in their own right. In doing so, it deepens the love and affection shared, making family bonds stronger than ever before. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a beautiful teaching about relationships. We are all interconnected, and through our relationships, we come to understand our true nature. Living alone allows seniors the space to connect with their family members on a deeper level, fostering a sense of mutual respect and emotional nourishment. In that space, both you and your family can grow together, apart, but more deeply connected.
Benefit 4. Pursuing personal passions. Living alone brings with it a remarkable gift: the freedom to rediscover and immerse oneself in personal passions that may have been pushed aside during years of family responsibilities or a hectic lifestyle. In the quiet moments of solitude, seniors have the space to explore hobbies, rediscover forgotten talents, and even learn new skills. These passions are not just ways to pass the time. They are avenues for personal growth, fulfillment, and a deeper connection to one's true self. Buddhist philosophy teaches us that every moment is an opportunity for self-discovery. And when we engage in activities that align with our inner desires, we experience a profound sense of joy and purpose. In the context of living alone, this can mean stepping into a space of creative freedom, where the only expectation is the one you set for yourself. There's no pressure to please anyone else, no obligations to attend to, and no distractions. It's just you and your passion, and that connection can be deeply transformative. Take, for example, the story of Jean, a woman in her early 70s who had spent decades raising children and managing a household. After her last child left for college, Jean found herself in a quiet house for the first time in years. At first it felt unsettling, but then she remembered her long-lost love for writing, something she had put aside during her years of family life. "I used to write poetry when I was younger," Jean shared with me, "but between raising kids and keeping the house running,
I never had the time to truly explore it. Now that I'm on my own, I finally have the space to pick it up again. Jean began writing poetry every day, and over time, she began sharing her work with a local writing group. Her creativity, once dormant, came alive in a way she had never expected. Her poems, full of vivid imagery and rich emotions, reflected the peace and self-discovery that came with living alone. "It's amazing," Jean said with a smile. "Writing has become my meditation, my way of reconnecting with myself. I never thought I'd feel this fulfilled again." Jean's story highlights an important point. Living alone offers the opportunity to rediscover old passions or try new things without the guilt or pressure of outside expectations. Maybe you've always dreamed of learning a musical instrument, or perhaps you used to paint and haven't picked up a brush in years. Living alone frees you from the distractions of daily life, allowing you to explore your passions in a focused, meaningful way. In Buddhist teachings, there is a concept known as samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This idea isn't just about physical existence. It can also refer to the way we live our lives. As we age, we often find ourselves shedding old roles and identities, parent, spouse, worker, and we are given a rare opportunity to rebirth ourselves into a new phase of life. This rebirth can take the form of personal discovery, where we reconnect with who we truly are, not based on the roles we've played, but on the passions that lie deep within us. For example, Philip, a man in his late 60s, took up woodworking after retiring. "I never thought I had the patience for it," he told me, laughing. "But living alone has given me the space to experiment and learn. Now I make furniture for my friends and family, and it feels so rewarding to see my creations bring them joy." Woodworking, once a passing thought, became a way for Philip to express his creativity and leave a tangible legacy of his craftsmanship. This freedom to explore is not just a hobby, it's a form of self-nourishment. Engaging in personal passions, whether it's painting, gardening, writing, or any other pursuit, nourishes the soul and can bring an incredible sense of purpose to one's life. In Buddhism, right action, engaging in activities that are wholesome and fulfilling, is a crucial part of leading a balanced life. And when seniors live alone, they can make time for these activities without distractions, cultivating a sense of peace and satisfaction in the process. Moreover, pursuing personal passions in later life can help seniors feel more connected to themselves, which in turn enhances overall well-being. It offers a sense of accomplishment, something that can sometimes be lost as we age, and the traditional markers of success, career, family building, slowly fade into the background. But personal passions provide a different kind of fulfillment, one that is independent of external achievements. Living alone allows you the mental and emotional space to reconnect with your true self. It offers the freedom to explore, to create, and to grow in ways that are deeply personal. And as you engage in these activities, you might find that your sense of purpose expands and your joy deepens. For many, these passions become a central part of their later years, infusing each day with a new sense of meaning. In the Buddhist tradition, the idea of impermanence is central to understanding our lives. Everything is transient, and as we age, we naturally experience change. Living alone, however, gives us the chance to embrace these changes gracefully and to focus on what truly matters, the things that nourish our spirit and bring us peace. Whether through art, music, or another passion, these activities offer a way to honor the present moment and create something lasting, something that is uniquely yours. Benefit 5. Enhanced physical health. When we think of the benefits of living alone, physical health might not be the first thing that comes to mind. But surprisingly, living alone can encourage a greater focus on self-care and a more active lifestyle, which in turn leads to improved physical health. In the stillness of solitude, there is the freedom to listen to our body's needs and respond to them in a way that works best for us. Without the distractions or responsibilities of managing a busy household, many seniors find themselves more inclined to take better care of their health, engaging in activities that strengthen the body and improve overall well-being. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a concept called mind-body harmony, the understanding that the health of our body and mind are intimately connected. When we live alone, we have the time and space to cultivate this harmony, focusing on practices that nourish both our body and mind. The absence of external distractions gives us the opportunity to be more mindful of what our body needs, whether it's rest, movement, or healthy nourishment. Consider the story of Margaret, a 72-year-old woman who had spent the last decade caring for her husband. After his passing, Margaret moved into her own apartment and found herself with more free time than she had ever known. At first, she was unsure how to fill the silence, but over time, she realized that this quiet space was an invitation to focus on herself, something she had long neglected. "I used to ignore my health," she told me, "always putting my family's needs before mine, but now I've started walking every day, and I even joined a yoga class. I feel stronger and more energetic than I've felt in years." Margaret's story is not unique. Many seniors find that living alone gives them the freedom to adopt healthier habits that they may have put off for years. It's the freedom to make your health a priority without the guilt of taking time away from others. Whether it's going for a walk, doing stretches, or even joining a local exercise group, living alone allows seniors the time to focus on their physical well-being. One of the greatest benefits of living alone is that it often leads to more consistent physical activity. When we live with others, especially family members, there's a tendency to fall into routines where we might skip exercise or not take time to care for ourselves. But when you're living alone, you have the control over your own schedule. You can decide to take a walk in the park whenever you want, or set aside time every day for stretching, yoga, or light exercise that suits your body's needs. These activities, though small, can make a world of difference in maintaining physical health. In fact, studies show that seniors living alone tend to engage in more physical activity than those living in shared households. The reason is simple: without the distractions of family life, there's more time to focus on one's own health. Whether it's gardening, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or simply going for a walk around the block, these activities add up and contribute to improved cardiovascular health, better mobility, and greater overall strength. And it's not just about exercise. Living alone also encourages seniors to pay closer attention to their diet and nutrition. When you're the sole person responsible for your meals, there's more freedom to choose the foods that nourish your body and mind. Without the pressures of feeding a whole family, you can take time to prepare balanced meals that are rich in nutrients and beneficial for your health. It's about making choices that are in alignment with your well-being and having the space to make those choices without external distractions. This focus on health and well-being aligns perfectly with Buddhist teachings, which emphasize the importance of caring for both the body and the mind. In Buddhist practice, we're encouraged to take care of our physical body, as it is the vessel that carries us through life. And part of that care involves mindful living, being aware of how we treat our body, how we nourish it, and how we engage with it in daily life. Living alone provides the opportunity to adopt a more mindful approach to physical health. Without the constant rush of family life, there is time to slow down, listen to your body's needs, and respond with care. Whether it's through mindful eating, regular physical activity, or simply ensuring that you get enough rest, living alone offers the perfect environment for practicing self-care. In Buddhist teachings, there is an understanding that aging is a natural part of life, and with it comes the opportunity to cultivate wisdom. This wisdom is not only intellectual, but also physical, as we come to understand what our bodies need at different stages of life. Living alone allows seniors to make conscious, thoughtful decisions about their health, decisions that lead to a greater sense of vitality and strength. Living alone is not about being alone in the literal sense. It's about embracing solitude in a way that allows us to flourish. When we take care of our bodies, our minds follow suit, and the result is a sense of well-being that permeates every aspect of life. Through mindful action, we can create a life that is both physically healthy and emotionally rich, allowing us to age gracefully with energy and vitality.
As we reach the later stages of life, the choices we make about how we live can shape our happiness and well-being. Living alone, far from being a lonely or isolating experience, can offer immense benefits: freedom and independence, improved mental health, stronger family bonds, the opportunity to pursue personal passions, and enhanced physical health. These 5 powerful advantages provide seniors with a chance to reconnect with themselves, reclaim their vitality, and truly enjoy the golden years. Choosing to live alone isn't just about the physical space. It's about the freedom to live life on your own terms. It's about creating a life that is meaningful, fulfilling, and aligned with your true self. It's a journey of rediscovery, of nurturing your mind and body, and cultivating deeper relationships with those you love. It's about giving yourself the permission to thrive, not despite living alone, but because of it. For those of you who are contemplating this decision, whether for yourself or for a loved one, we encourage you to reflect on the potential benefits of living alone. Could this lifestyle offer the space for personal growth, the peace of mind you've been seeking, or the chance to reconnect with old passions? Sometimes it's the space between us that allows us to love each other more deeply, to find joy in the little things, and to rediscover what truly matters in life. We'd love to hear from you. If you've had personal experience living alone or know someone who has, share your thoughts with us in the comments below. How has living alone shaped your life, or the life of someone you care about? Has it brought more peace, joy, or fulfillment? Your story could inspire others on their own journey. Thank you for watching Quiet Wisdom. If you found this video insightful, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We look forward to sharing more content on living a peaceful, purposeful life. May your days be filled with serenity, and may you walk your path with clarity and peace.